Somewhere near you, there is a clematis vine eating an entire fence alive, drowning it in purple, and the person who owns it has no idea what they are doing. They never deadhead it, they never fuss over it. They forget to water it for weeks at a time, and every single summer it comes back bigger and louder than the year before. Meanwhile, maybe you did everything right. You bought a beautiful clematis, you planted it with love, you watched it limp through one sad season, and then you watched it quietly disappear. No dramatic death, it just gave up. Here's the truth nobody tells you at the garden center. Clematis is not fragile. It is misunderstood. Almost everything that kills it comes down to 5 very specific mistakes. And the moment you stop making them, this plant becomes nearly impossible to kill. A vine that shrugs off neglect, drought, hard winters, and even the occasional run-in with a lawnmower. So today I am giving you the 5 secrets that turn a delicate diva into an absolute tank. These are not the recycled tips you have heard 100 times. And stick around for secret number 4 especially, because that one single-handedly explains why most clematis die in their first 2 years and almost nobody talks about it. Let's get into it. Number 1, plant it deeper than feels right. Let me start with a secret that breaks every gardening rule you have ever learned. With almost any plant you buy, the instructions are the same. Dig a hole, set the plant in at exactly the depth it was in the pot. Backfill? Done. Bury a tomato too deep and you risk rotting the stem. Bury most perennials too deep and you smother the crown. Clematis throws that rulebook straight out the window. With clematis, you want to plant it deeper than feels comfortable. Take it out of the nursery pot and set it in the ground so that the first set of leaf nodes, those little joints on the stem, end up 2 to 3 inches below the soil line. You are burying part of the stem on purpose. Why does this work? Because clematis has a hidden survival trick that most gardeners never switch on. Those buried nodes can sprout brand new shoots underground. So if the top of your plant ever gets wrecked, frost zaps it, a slug army devours it, you snap it by accident while weeding, the plant does not die. It simply pushes up fresh growth from below the soil. You have basically built yourself a backup plant hidden underground. Planting deep is also your single best defense against Clematis wilt, that mysterious disease where a healthy-looking vine collapses overnight. We will get to wilt in a moment, but here is the preview. A deeply planted clematis can be cut all the way to the ground and still come back from those protected buried buds. A shallow one gets no second chance. So when you plant, ignore the little voice that says match the pot level. Go 2 to 3 inches deeper. Let it feel wrong. That discomfort is exactly the point. Number 2, cold feet, warm face. You've probably heard the old line about clematis that it likes its head in the sun and its feet in the shade. It gets repeated so often that it has turned into background noise and most people nod along without ever actually doing anything about it. That is a real mistake because that little phrase is hiding one of the most important things about keeping this plant alive for the long haul. Here is what it actually means in practice. The top of the plant, the vines, the leaves, the flowers, wants full sun, 6 hours minimum. That is where the energy comes from, and that is where the blooms come from. No argument there. But the roots are the complete opposite story. Clematis roots hate being hot and dry. When the sun bakes the soil around the base of the plant, the roots stress out, the moisture disappears, and the vine starts sacrificing its own leaves and flowers just to stay alive. That is why a clematis in a hot, exposed spot can look so leggy and miserable, even when it is drowning in light. The fix is to keep the base of the plant cool and shaded. The lazy, expensive version is to buy decorative stones or shade tiles. But the version that actually works best is to plant something low and leafy right in front of your clematis. A small shrub, some hardy geraniums, a clump of perennials, even a sprawling annual. Those plants throw a living shadow over the root zone. They hold moisture in the soil, and they keep the temperature down. And this is the part that makes clematis forgiving. Once the roots are cool and protected, the plant can go far longer between waterings without panicking. You are building a buffer. You are making it so that when you forget about this plant for 2 weeks in July, and you will, the roots are sitting in cool, moist soil instead of cooking in the sun. Cold feet, warm face, burn that into your memory. Number 3, know your pruning group or put the shears down completely. Now we get to the secret that creates more confused, flowerless clematis than anything else on this list. Pruning clematis genuinely scares people, and the reason it is so confusing is that there is not one rule. There are 3 depending on which type you own. Cut at the wrong time and you will slice off every flower bud before it ever opens. The plant will not die, but you will get a whole season of nothing but leaves, and you will swear the thing is broken when really you are the one who broke it. Here is the version that cuts through all the jargon. Clematis fall into 3 pruning groups. Group 1 blooms early in spring on growth from the previous year. These you barely touch. Prune them hard in late winter and you are cutting off this year's flowers. The rule with these is simple. Give them a light tidy right after they finish blooming, and otherwise leave them alone. Group 2 are the big, showy early summer bloomers, and they are the divas. They flower on old wood and then again on new wood. With these, you do a light trim in early spring, just taking out the dead or weak stems, and they reward you with blooms twice. Group 3 blooms later in summer on brand new growth, and these are the easiest of the whole lot. Every late winter or early spring, you chop the entire plant down to about a foot off the ground. Brutal. Fast, no thinking required, and it comes roaring back. So how do you handle all this without a botany degree? 2 options. Option 1, work out which group you have. Check the plant tag or just notice when it blooms because the timing of the flowers tells you almost everything. Option 2, and this is your safety net. If you have absolutely no idea which group you own, do nothing at all for the first full year. Just watch it. See when it flowers. A clematis that never gets pruned will not die. It will only get a little messy. But a clematis pruned at the wrong moment loses its entire show. When in doubt, put the shears down. Number 4, the wilt trick that saves almost every plant. This is the one I told you to wait for. This is the secret that explains why so many clematis simply vanish in their first 2 years, and it is the exact thing that separates the people who give up on this plant from the people who grow it for decades. Picture this. Your clematis is thriving. It is climbing, it is healthy, maybe it is days away from blooming. You walk outside one morning and an entire stem, or the whole plant, has collapsed. Wilted, blackened, dramatic, dead looking. Overnight with no warning at all. That is clematis wilt, and it is the single most heartbreaking thing this plant does. It is a fungal problem that strikes the stems, and it looks exactly like the plant has died. So here is what almost everyone does. They assume it is gone, they dig it up, they throw it in the bin, and they go around telling everyone that clematis is impossible. Here is the secret. That plant is almost certainly not dead. Clematis wilt attacks the visible top of the plant, but it very rarely kills the roots. And if you took secret number 1 seriously and planted deep, you have living buds sitting safely below the soil, completely untouched by the wilt. So instead of giving up, you do something that feels a little insane. You cut the entire collapsed plant right down to ground level. You remove every scrap of the wilted material, get it well away from the plant, and whatever you do, do not compost it. Then you keep the soil steadily moist, you keep those roots cool, and you wait. In the vast majority of cases, within a few weeks, you will see new green shoots pushing up from the base, fresh, clean growth from those protected underground buds. The plant resets itself completely, and here is the beautiful part. Many clematis go through wilt once or twice in their early years, and then, as the root system matures and gets stronger, they simply stop doing it altogether. So the real secret is not preventing wilt, it is refusing to panic when it happens. The gardener who throws the plant away loses. The gardener who cuts it down and waits gets a vine that lives for 20, 30, even 40 years. Knowing this one thing is the whole difference between killing clematis and being the person who cannot kill it. Number 5, feed the roots, not the calendar. The last secret is about long-term staying power. The difference between a clematis that merely survives and a clematis that becomes that monster vine swallowing the fence. Most people either never feed their clematis at all, or they grab whatever generic plant food is sitting in the shed and fling it on at random whenever they happen to remember. Both of those give you a plant that just sort of exists, alive but never spectacular and never tough enough to shrug off neglect. Here is what clematis actually wants. It is a hungry, heavy feeder, but it wants the right food at the right moment, not a constant drip of nitrogen. Nitrogen pushes leafy green growth, and if you overdo it, you get a wall of foliage and almost no flowers, a healthy-looking plant that flatly refuses to bloom. What clematis really wants for flowers is potassium and phosphorus. So here's the simple rhythm. In early spring, as the plant wakes up, work a generous handful of compost or well-rotted manure into the soil around the base. That is your slow, steady foundation. Then, as the plant heads toward its blooming season, switch to a feed that is higher in potassium. Something like a rose food or a tomato food works beautifully, and that is what fuels the explosion of flowers. Once it is blooming hard, ease off and let it get on with it. But here is the part that ties this whole video together. A well-fed clematis with a strong root system is a forgiving clematis. The energy it banks in those roots is exactly what carries it through when you forget to water it, when wilt strikes, when a hard winter hits, when you ignore it completely for a month. You are not just feeding it for prettier flowers, you are building a reserve tank that makes the plant nearly indestructible. Feed the roots and the roots will carry the plant through everything you throw at it, including your own neglect. So let's bring it all together, because these 5 secrets are not really 5 separate tips. They are one single strategy. You plant it deep so it always has a backup hidden underground. You keep its feet cool and its head sunny so it stops stressing. You respect the pruning group, or you leave the shears alone entirely. You refuse to panic when wilt strikes, because that plant is coming back. And you feed the roots so it builds the strength to survive anything. Do those 5 things, and you do not just get a clematis that lives, you get one that thrives on neglect. So go and look at that vine you thought was hopeless, or that bare fence you have been too nervous to plant, with completely fresh eyes. If this changed the way you think about clematis, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because here at BloomProof, this is exactly what we do. We take the plants everyone swears are impossible and show you that they were only ever misunderstood. There is a new one every week, and the next one is going to surprise you. And leave me a comment down below. Have you ever lost a clematis to wilt and thrown it out before you knew it could come back? Or do you have one of those unstoppable monster vines that just will not quit? I read every single comment, and your stories are what shape the videos I make next. Until next time, get out there, get your hands dirty, and grow something that lasts.